Okay, welcome to Stephen Follows Instructions. The in office, don't know what to call it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't version episode of Stephen Follows Instructions. So I've turned off as much as I can on this computer, and I'm not actually recording on the computer again to try to save cycles. Like I say, I'm streaming from my office. Looks like I'm streaming at 2700 kbps, kilobits per second. So looks like it's all right. CPU's only at about 20%. 30 frames per second. So I think I'm okay. Mouse seems to be moving all right. So I guess I can begin. And we'll see how this goes. So yeah, this is an episode of Stephen Follows Instructions. There's probably 0 people watching. Just going to test the chat. So if you are watching, I can see the YouTube chat. So hooray. Okay. Here's what I'm up to. This actually takes me back several weeks, in fact, when I decided I was going to learn TypeScript, and someone said, "Oh, well, this looks like it might be a good episode of Stephen Follows Instructions," and that was already after I had started, and I responded at the time, well, there wasn't really much in the way of responding to instructions, but on reflection, there was more to go, and it was instructional sort of, so sure, why not? Let's do an episode on TypeScript. So that's what I'm up to. I've got maybe an hour and a half max here in the office. I wonder what I'm doing to the building's bandwidth. Probably just killing it, but anyhow, whatever. So here's what I did back then, and I'll just take you through the story. Learn TypeScript, because that's what I wanted to do. And just in Google, found this. Best resource to learn TypeScript if you already know how to code. So I clicked on that, and that's going to eventually take me, you can see my bandwidth here is, like, for looking at websites, it's just awful. So here's the result in a Reddit thread. This might not be doable if it's going to be this speed. And anyhow, we get the TypeScript language.org handbook. And so that's what I worked from for a bit. And so basically I went through it. And so I did follow some of these, and don't do these to get started. These introductions are intended to highlight key similarities and differences between TypeScript and your favorite programming language, which is a good idea, but not useful if you don't know TypeScript already. So just jump to the basics. So here we have the basics. All right. So some instructions. So, okay, now again, a lot of this is just reading, which is not really the most exciting thing that you can put on video. Okay, so basically what they're telling us here is we have a variable, right? Message to lowercase, and we can call message or whatever. There are different things we could do with the variable named message. So suppose we defined message constant message hello world. If we try to run message to lowercase, we'll get it in the same function. We'll get the string in lowercase, but we can't run message as a program. It's not a function, I should say. So it says it would be great if we could avoid mistakes like this. Now, to be honest, I don't think I've ever made that particular mistake or that kind of mistake. I don't recall ever treating a string as a function, but I suppose it could happen. That's kind of part of what's motivating TypeScript. I think if that's all that's motivating TypeScript, there isn't really a whole lot of value to it, but there you go. Okay, so what we have here is static type checking, right? So again, we're just looking at the same error, constant message equals hello, message being run as a function. This expression is not callable. So again, same sort of thing. They're just kind of repeating themselves here. The big danger is non-exception failures. Suppose you create an object which is called user with properties Daniel and 26, and then you try to call the property location, you get undefined return. So it's going to be a failure, right, because you get undefined, unless you plan for that, which is what I do. Would it be nice if you could catch that, right? So here is the preferred result. Property does not exist. Okay. So fine. So, and this is what I was doing, right? I was just reading through this. There's not a whole lot, and this is why I'm thinking, well, this is not really going to be an episode of Stephen Follows Instructions. So basically, we're getting the whole, why would I want to do TypeScript? So here we go, operator cannot be greater than, or, again, some errors. So here is the money sentence. TypeScript can catch bugs when we make mistakes in our code. TypeScript can also prevent us from making those mistakes in the first place. So basically what it has is a type checker to check things like whether we're accessing the right properties on variables or other properties. Can also be leveraged for code editing, etc. So here we have an example where it's doing, you're typing res.sen and it's giving you some possibilities. Okay, so what happens? What do we do? We need to use something called TSC, the TypeScript compiler. All right. So how's that going to work? All right, well, I love the presumption that you just know where you're going to be doing all of this. But so first we need to grab it via npm. So what does that mean? Well, we need a terminal. Now I found that using VS Code is probably going to be the easiest way to do this. So the -G is going to install it globally. You may, got a big, right, okay. I had a big red dot on my icon at the bottom of the screen. I wonder what, it means I'm recording. Okay. So here's Visual Studio Code finally loading. This is what I get for using government issued computers. This is why I like working at home. None of this is a problem working at home. I have a proper computer that I bought myself, not this piece of junk that's 10 years old. All right. So, what I did is I opened up the terminal. So we'll just open up the new terminal. So here we are in the terminal. That's this part down here. You could also use Windows PowerShell, but I like doing it in VS Code. And in fact, this is an instance of PowerShell running in VS Code. I can barely move my cursor anymore, so I think I'm probably not going to continue with this very long. And so we take our command here, npm install g Typescript, Control C, and so we'll put it into our terminal. Wow, that took forever to load. Control V, and I'll hit enter. Now I've already installed it, but this will do it again. Presumably just on top of the previous version, who knows? Don't need the release notes. Wow, this is so slow. So slow. Come on. This looks like it's going to be undoable from the office. You know, I just don't have the computing power or the bandwidth to. The CPU is still only 27.5%. So, like, it's not necessarily the computer. It could be just garbage that computing services has put on the computer. Okay. New major version of npm available. Okay. npm install. So, changed one package in 26 seconds. That's me installing Typescript, and then all of this is just other stuff. I'm not going to bother with that for now because it'll probably take 20 minutes. This is how this ends up impacting what you can do. All right. So, I've installed it. Now let's move to an empty folder and try writing our first Typescript program, hello.ts, and I've got a bigger one already written. Alright, that does a few things, and it's called hello.ts. So then you run Typescript tsc hello.ts, and so we're going to do that. Hit enter, and what's going to happen, so what's happening now, the TSC probably stands for Typescript Compiler. So it's taking this code, compiling it, and as you can see, it has created a function called hello.js. Now, something to note, and I worried about this for a little while. See, this here is saying there's two problems with this file. So I thought, what could these problems be? I'm trying to figure out what these problems are. And what it turned out, you see the underneath here, right, there's one problem. Duplicate function implementation. But I looked at it, I'm only using it once. Similarly here, duplicate function implementation. I finally figured out it's because it's in here too. Here's greet, and here's get favorite number. So Visual Studio Code thinks that I'm actually defining this function twice in the same directory, and that obviously would be a problem. But of course, one of these is TypeScript, the other one is JavaScript, and I'm never going to run the TypeScript. I'll only ever run the JavaScript. I compile the TypeScript into runnable JavaScript. So it's not really an error. Okay. So here we go. We're going to do some more things. We run through a few examples with some error checking, some explicit types, and you notice in my code here, right, you see the difference. So here's the function greet person, and it expects values of person, which is a string, and date, which is a date, right? And if we go over to hello.js, right, it just says person date, right? So because this type checking isn't in JavaScript, it is in TypeScript. That's what TypeScript does. I know. There's more, but it's taken us now. I don't know how many, because I don't see an indication of how long we've been going, but an indication of I don't see an indication of how long this video's been going. Do you see I have somebody watching, which is cool. You said the word terminal, which I don't understand what you were trying to say with that, but that's okay. But if you have any comments, I do see you, and you can make comments as I go along. So here we go. We're back here. So I'm continuing on. So again, I'm just summarizing what I did when I was originally learning this. We'll get to a point at some point where we hit something that I haven't already learned. So, okay. Here we have a case where TypeScript is figuring out what the type is, even though we didn't explicitly declare the type. And then if we try to do something wrong, again, it'll flag it as an error when we try to compile it. Oh yeah, this is another thing. This is interesting. This is down leveling. Now, normally when I use JavaScript, these days I'll just use this kind of notation. Here we have this backtick. It starts and ends the string, and then here I can use the $ and brace to indicate a variable, right? So basically what this does is create a string hello and then the value of this variable, etc. Now, if you don't tell TypeScript, it will instead produce this old style JavaScript. Now, you don't need this anymore. Pretty much every browser can support the new style. So you can actually run your compiler with a target flag. So here we go. Here's how we do it, which gives us the modern day JavaScript output. So we'll just do that here. So let's see now, see, here's the old style concatenation, but now let's run this, and we'll do, so we've run this, well, we are running this. Right, I've learned that, a while back, but I'm thinking of if, somebody was new to this, You know, a lot of this stuff that they assume people know, people often don't know. Okay, I'm getting an error being reported from YouTube live control panel. Yeah, here we go. I fell 30 feet with a full tool about 2 years ago, and I'm trying to master JavaScript. Yeah, so you are the sort of person that I'm thinking of. Now you know that you install NPM using the terminal, but when you were first starting out, you would not have known this. There's no way you could have known this. And that's the sort of thing that a lot of these instructions just sort of skip over. They just say, oh yeah, just install TS and move on. Anyhow, okay, so we've entered in this command. It took a while, but it finally ran. And now we look at hello.js, and you see it's the modern JavaScript notation. So this is a better way of running the compiler than just plain running the compiler. GitHub made me cry. I hear you. One day I'm going to do an episode of Stephen Follows Instructions for GitHub, because I tell you that, yeah, I totally hear you. There's supposed to be, this is supposed to, like Visual Studio Code, which I'm using here, is supposed to support GitHub, and it does. But boy, oh boy, it makes me tear out my hair sometimes. All right, anyhow, continuing. So we'll go back to this instruction, and I don't know how to do it, but after I'll put the URL for this handbook into the description of the video, and that'll help people follow along. Okay. Strictness. So you can set a flag, strict equals true, or you can have a tsconfig JSON. So I guess you can just create a JSON file with all the variables you want to set, I suppose. Except I don't see the one for that specific type of script, but oh well. No implicit any, strict null checks. So I don't need all this right now, right? This is not basic, right? I know it seems maybe to the person who's writing this that this is basic. This is not basic. This is the stuff you learn later when you'll actually need it. We don't need it now. All right. Moving on. Everyday types. Okay. This is going to be repeating for a lot of us, I think. The primitives are string, number, and Boolean. String is a string, number is a number. Boolean is the thing that's true or false. Also includes arrays, and we use the square bracket syntax. You might also see the angle brackets. I hope we never use those, but whatever. Typescript also has a special type, any. That can be, I guess, any type, and you just don't care what type it is. And no implicit any. Okay, so there's another compiler flag. Again, we don't need compiler flag stuff right now. Just stick to what you're telling us. You're telling us about types, right? Okay, type annotations on variables. So, okay, when I declare a variable, I can optionally add the type annotation. So normally I would just type let my name equals Alice, but here it's let my name :string equals Alice. So presumably if I let my name :array equals Alice, I don't know what I'd get. Okay, we also have a type that's a function. Here we have a function. We declare the variables that are passed to the function with the name of the variable and then a colon and then the type of variable it is. And it checks that whenever we call the function. Same with return types. Here we define our function, and then after the function we can have a colon and then the type, and that tells us that this function is going to return a number and not a string or an array or whatever. See, it's odd that it's number. Why is it odd that it's number? Because I'm in the world of programming, I'm used to working with either integers or real numbers, like 3.159 or whatever. And numbers, it conflates the two. So sometimes a function will return a promise. So a promise is something that the function will return later, not now. So if you have a function that returns a promise, you call the function and the function returns a promise, and so then your program keeps doing whatever it's doing, and later on you'll get that value back from that function and then you can use it. Typically you'd have the function which returns a promise and you're doing other stuff, but you have more code here that says what to do when the promise is returned. So here we're getting a promise, and what it's promising is a variable of type number. So there's that angle bracket notation. Anonymous functions, all the same applies for anonymous functions. So here's an anonymous function. Parameters inferred to have type string. Okay. Right. Okay. I don't see why it would be parameter. I don't see why it would be inferred, except from the fact that the actual values here are strings. Okay. Even though the parameter s didn't have a type annotation, Typescript used the types of the for each function along with the inferred type of the array. Okay, so that's exactly what I just said. Object types, any JavaScript value with properties. I use these all the time. This is a good example, right? Coordinates, you can have a point with an x value and a y value, so it'd be point x and point y, right? And so you can actually define these, right? So here we're defining this as having these two values where the first value is a number and the second value is a number. So it's just been really clear about what our types of things are. And that's really the main way that TypeScript differs from JavaScript. So it's just like writing JavaScript. Except we're being clear about our types, and then we'll run it through the compiler. It'll remove all of that type information and just write nice clean JavaScript, but it'll check all that for errors. Union types, working with union types, so that's either it can be a number or a string. This could be an array or a string. I use that quite a bit, actually. That comes up a lot. Type aliases is a name for a type. You notice, and this is interesting, I'm just reading here, right? Okay. Super boring video. I know. But that's the way they've done this. So we don't really have a whole lot of instructions to follow. Interfaces is another way to name an object type. And Yeah, okay. Extending an interface, extending a type via intersections. I really don't know why we have two ways of doing the same thing, but we do. We'll learn about these concepts in later chapters, so don't worry if you don't understand all of these right away. Then why are you telling us this? I mean, don't introduce this now when I'm not going to understand it, right? Just move on. Okay. Right, so here's some constant. This is another way of doing it, I guess. Hello as number. This is that as notation. That's kind of seems to me to be an import from Python almost. Literal types. So the type of something might be quite, might be a specific thing. Okay. So a good example for literal types right here. A method, so your method might be the string get, or it might be the string post. Can't be anything else. So it's going to be one of those two. That's an example of a literal type. And then values of null and undefined. Here again we have some flags that we can set, whatever. Less common primitives. Big int. There's a primitive that is used to reference a symbol. Okay, and that's all. So, narrowing. Imagine we have a function called pad left. Okay. All it does is throw an error. All right, not implemented yet. Okay. I wonder, how am I running these? I have a JavaScript. How am I running this JavaScript? How do I run JavaScript in a terminal? I think the answer is going to be Axios, but I'm not sure. Install Node. Create the JavaScript file. Oh, and then you just run it with Node. Okay. So, pretty sure I have Node installed. I'll just check Node and then -v. That's the version. Okay, so now let's try to run Node hello.js. There we go. And it ran the script for me. Okay. So, good. So let's test then. They should actually suggest that I test this, but okay. So let's add this function. Pad left, and then let's actually try to call it pad left. Oops. Pad left. All right. It's trying to suggest a bunch of crap. All right. Oh, okay. This is something I've done quite a bit. because these two are both in the same directory, I'm writing in the JavaScript instead of in the TypeScript. So that's an error. Okay, so I'll just go Z, try to take it back to where it was. Okay. And I'll just go into this TypeScript file. So frustrating with this lag. There we go. I'll put that in. Control S. So now I'll compile the TypeScript. Here we go. And we'll wait for that to happen. And we're still waiting because it's a government computer. And now we'll try running. We'll see what happens. Here we go. So we got an error, not implemented yet. Okay. So that's nice. Throw an error. So, okay. Let's come back here. So, if padding is a number, okay, so it will treat that as the number of spaces we want to prepend to input. If padding is a string, it should just prepend padding to input. I guess I assume they mean the value of padding, not the word padding, to the input, to the value of input. So let's, okay, so here's now, this is kind of weird, isn't it? They throw this in. There's no reason to throw this in. This, you know, well, I put this in and we had a nice look at it, but, you know, it's not adding any instructional value. It's just there and then it disappears and they never explain it. It's just there and then it's gone, and who knows why it was there. I mean, we know why it was there. It's because it's best practice that when you just throw up the shell of a function, put an error so that you don't assume that the function's been written. It makes sense. But anyhow, okay. Return. Okay, good. I'm still working in TypeScript. Okay, so let's save that. Let's try to compile the TypeScript. So here we go, TypeScript. And now this should give me the error that they're predicting a couple lines down. Again, it's going to take us a few minutes to do. Okay. Error. Argument of type string or number is not assignable to parameter of type number. Okay. Let's come back for their explanation. We're passing, I see, okay. We're passing a value with type number or string to the repeat function, but the repeat function only accepts a number. And it's right. The repeat function. Okay, so this is a JavaScript function. Repeat padding. Right. So repeat is a JavaScript function, I guess. It's a function I've never used. Return. Okay, I see what's happening. So here's our variable, and we're to repeat this variable padding number of times. That's what that does. Okay. I've never used that ever in my life, but whatever. Okay. So, all right. What do we got then? So, okay, it is okay. So we have to handle it like this. If type of padding equals number, then otherwise padding plus input. That will probably work. That will probably work. That will work. So we'll just put that in here. Oops. Control V. All right, we'll save it with Control S, and now we'll compile it. And that should compile just fine. Notice it's still reporting 2 errors. There's got to be a way of compiling your JavaScript so that it's actually in a different directory. But they haven't bothered to tell us about that yet. They'll tell us about other things that we don't need. Alright, so let's try to run this. And it runs just fine, I think. Pad left, hello. Let's maybe give it a different value here. Put 10 in here. So it should put 10 something. Maybe hello 10 times. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Control S. Let's compile. And then we'll run it once it compiles. Again, if you're watching this video on YouTube, we're live, and I can see any comments that you make in the chat. We're going to go for another maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, give or take. Okay. So let's try to run it. And it didn't really change anything, did it? That's kind of weird. Pad left 10, hello. Oh, well, of course, it's... okay. Maybe we want to... No, we're actually returning even before we get to that. Alright, so this isn't going to run because we're actually returning from the function before we even get to any of this stuff. Or no, we're not. Duh. Too much console, not enough script, so we'll just move that. Alright, so what happens? We run the console log. Oh, yeah, let's just do that. We'll just put all of that into the console log. Console log, and open it. Alright. Now let's compile it. Compile, and then we'll run it. We should get some output. We're just sending it to the console. Okay. And nothing. Okay, pad left. Return padding plus input. I don't know why I'm not getting anything. Great, it's doing something. Okay, let's do it this way then. We'll just put this, we'll have it, instead of returning it, console log. Do that. That might produce a result. All right, let's compile. And once it compiles, we'll run it. And come in, there we go. Very slow. And again, nothing. Why? Hi, 410N. I'm good, thanks. I'm trying to figure out why I'm not getting any result. Let's try making this more explicit. Console log, all of this. And the closing tick. Control S. Let's try compiling. There's something obvious that I'm missing here. I just don't know what it is. Let's have a look inside the JavaScript. Maybe it'll be a bit easier to see. Oh, yeah, it's not even writing. That could be the reason. Do you need to convert number to a string? No, it's our problem here is just it's not writing, and it's probably not writing because it's blocked. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this, and then we'll try compiling it. How many programming languages do you know? That's a good question. It depends on how you define know, but over my time I have learned machine language, assembler, Pascal, basic, Fortran, C, something called LPC, which was used to program MUDs, Perl, PHP, Python, JavaScript, and now I'm messing around with TypeScript. I've worked with others, but those are the ones that I've actually done stuff in, actually written, functioning programs. And yet I'm still making stupid mistakes. All right, let's try compiling this again. And let's give it some time to finish here. We'll actually see it show up. All right, now let's try running hello.js. Still, it only does that. Why? Why? Okay, well, it's actually done stuff. Oh, okay, it's going to return. Right, so yeah, it's yeah. So it's never going to end up in the console log here. So actually, we'll come back now to doing this, which we had done before. It didn't work, but it didn't work because we weren't getting it to save to hello.js. So let's try this. And I don't need this anymore. All right. That should work. Oh, right. Type of. I actually liked that suggestion. Where'd it go? Also, padding equals string. Okay. Return padding plus input. Yeah, I like that. We'll go with the suggested code. And then we'll also accept the error. See, this is me allowing the AI to do a little coding. Oh gee, yeah. You think people will need to learn them 5 years from now? Oh, I'm 66. Yeah, I know. It bothers me too. I don't know. I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, as it stands right now, yeah. But it's like when I learned machine language in assembler, and you know, these are commands, or these are languages where you are directly writing numerical values into machine registers, right? So you're actually setting 1 and 0 values on a machine, either in the transistors or on the tape. And then along came things like, well, even like BASIC, right? And you're not doing that anymore. What you have is a compiler between the basic language that you're using and the machine language, and the compiler is taking your basic commands and translating them into machine language. And you just trust that that works, right? You write a command in BASIC, let x equal 4, right? You trust that there's a series of machine language commands being run that will place the value of 4 into a register somewhere. And AI is kind of like that, right? I might write in English, you know, create or translate this into Russian. And my AI may go out and run a bunch of commands and programs and things and take my text and translate it into Russian. To me, that's no different than having BASIC set the value of a variable to equal 4. So it's you know, so they don't have to learn the same languages anymore, and you can sort of leave the old languages behind. Just, you know, like I don't use machine language at all anymore. I haven't used it since I was in my 20s. And you just move on to the next level, the higher level abstraction. We used to think that the higher level abstraction were these frameworks, right? Like React or whatever, Express, so on. But I don't think that those frameworks are the next level of abstraction. I think that our English language commands fed into a large language model as interpreter, that's the next level of abstraction. But what we're going to need to learn is how to ask for what we want, and indeed even what do we want, and that's going to be the hard thing. Okay, if statement is only returning to within the function is not returning the result of it back up. I think you're right. Pad left. No, well, this return and return. No, Okay, it's all saved. Oh, I've done it again. Again, do you see what's happening here? I'm coding in hello.js and not hello.ts. So, here's my hello.ts where I should be doing this. This is I'm constantly making this particular mistake, and it's because the way I've been instructed here, my JavaScript file and my TypeScript file are in the same directory. And really, when they were setting up this manual to begin, they should have set it up so that I would never find myself editing the JavaScript file directly. But I'm constantly doing that by mistake. All right. And let's do all this stuff that it's suggested as well. All right. That should work. Programmers always make mistakes. Yeah. Yeah. Say hello, Joshua. Hello, Joshua. I named my AI Joshua. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, still waiting for it to compile. Well, getting a lot of people viewing this, and that's, to me, more than a little surprising, given that usually, if you look, well, I guess you can't really see, but this is a part of a video series that I call Steven Follows Instructions. And if you look on this page, there's something like 40 videos that I've done of this, and my average viewership is 0. But for some reason, I've got a whole bunch of people today. So I am totally not used to this. There we go. I have success. So here's my left padding, repeated 10 times, and then my hello. But now, if I put a padding of, I'll make my padding hello, and I'll make my actual variable kitty. Okay, save. Now let's compile this. And I've pretty much forgotten what it was I was trying to learn here with this. Okay, so we're compiling this. I do wonder why I've gotten so many people today. Oh well, I'm not going to complain. There it is, Hello Kitty, just the way it should work. All right, let's come back to since when do you code? I first started the very first computer coding that I did would be in 1979 when I was a student at Algonquin College. Oh, you were recommended to me on my YouTube front page. Huh. Crazy. Just crazy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my father, who worked for Bell Canada all his life, he said, get into computing. So I took the year of computing science at Algonquin College. We used cards, card punches, fed them in. That was, I think those were assemblers. It was assembly code. And then later on, I moved to Calgary and continued on in 1980, 1981. Took a few courses in Fortran at SAIT in Calgary. And I was working with a branch of Texas Instruments at the time. And while I was with them, I taught myself BASIC. I'm glad you think it's a gem. I think it's miraculous that I've got so many people watching. I mean, this is I've never been recommended on the front page of YouTube before for anyone. All right. So where were we? So might as well keep going. Okay, we're getting an error on padding. Okay, so we've done all of this. If this mostly looks like uninteresting JavaScript code, that's sort of the point. Yeah. apart from the annotations that we put in place, and specifically this, right, and this is just plain JavaScript, yeah. And it's just that within our if, it checks type of padding. Remember, it's just TypeScript checks for types. Kind of, it's in the name, right? Oh, someone's asking again what coding languages you know. I mean, and again, it depends on how you define what you know, right? But I'll go through the list again. To be frank, though, like I'll say machine language and assembler. If I started working in those, I mean, I know how they work, but I'd have to go back to the manual for the exact syntax, right? You know, ADD space 895, whatever, right? And that's going to be the case for any of them. I don't have all of the syntax for all of these languages in my head at the same time, but I know how they work. So you don't use cursor windsurf at all? You know, Zephyr, I don't even know what they are. So assembler, machine language, Fortran, basic, C, C++, LCP, Perl, PHP, Python, JavaScript, and now we're working on TypeScript, and I may have missed one or two in there, but you know, whatever. Again, for most of them, I'd have to actually look stuff up. Oh, what I could do, well, these days I wouldn't even bother, right? I'd just go to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will give me the syntax. I know what the programming language does, so you know, I'll just have ChatGPT write me the code, and then I'll have a look at the code, make sure it's doing what I want it to do. That's what you need to be able to do these days. You need to be able to read code, more so than write code. Oh, there are AI coding agents that do the coding on your behalf. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I use ChatGPT to do stuff like that. So I would consider, like, based on your description, I would think of Cursor or Windsurf to be a shell on top of an AI engine that's doing the actual coding. Thank God. A TRS-80, yeah. Yeah, I was never, we used to call them trash 80s. I was never into that. The first actual computer I had, if I can remember it right, was an Atari 1080. I didn't use a Commodore. I thought those were toys. The Atari was a lovely computer. It had 16K memory, and I learned every little bit. Every bit in that memory, I learned it and understood what it did. And so I created back then writing in BASIC, but writing my data directly to the memory, and then you'd save your code on a cassette tape. I'd write my data directly into the spaces in between the sections of the operating system in order to get as much stuff into the memory of that computer as I could. It was a lot of fun. Okay, I read way better than I write. Yeah, and this is what AI is doing, right? It's like it's letting people who read now they can write pretty well as well. Quite surprising that you don't know about any of them. You should try them out. Yeah, trust me. To me, it is not surprising at all that I don't know about something. It seems obvious to you that it's surprising, but there is so much to know that there's always going to be stuff that I don't know. Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised I don't know them. The scroll about Commodore 64s. Yeah. That was the big one. Commodore 64s. Type of type guards. Okay, so give you very basic information. Oh, okay, this is the JavaScript. Okay, for const. Okay, so here we go. This is kind of cool. So here we have a function, print all, and so strings or strs, which might be a string, or it might be an array of strings, or it might be null. So if the type of strings is object, then for constant s of strings, print it out in the console. So we'll get here the error strs is possibly null. Why is it possibly null? Well, we allowed that here. So what we have is a for loop that could be running against what might be a possible null object or array of objects. Fair enough. So in the print all function, we try to check and see if strs is an object to see if it's an array type. But it turns out that a JavaScript type of null is actually an object. Yeah, because JavaScript is stupid in that way. Truthiness, narrowing. Truthiness might not be a word you'll find in our dictionary. Yes, it is. What is your advice to young programmers? I don't know. Programming is a means to an end. It's like asking, what is your advice to young writers, or what is your advice to young artists? It's a means to an end, right? The programming isn't the thing. It's what you're trying to do with the programming that is the thing. And that's always been the case for me. Like when I was younger, my objective over, I don't know, maybe a 10-year period, was to create the ultimate Star Trek game. Now, I never did create the ultimate Star Trek game, but I learned a ton, and eventually it gave me a career. But the objective was to create the Star Trek game. If you're a writer, the objective isn't just to have written. That's kind of silly. The objective is to have written the definitive history of England or whatever. Check out Bubble. It's a no-code solution, maybe a good fit. There's another thing that I don't know about. Trying to make that's for Simbets. I'm trying to make an app, and I'm completely lost on how to even start since I basically have zero knowledge about it. Any help, please? Yeah. Okay, well, what would I do if I was in that situation? And here's the environment. I would go to ChatGPT. What's the best book I've read? War and Peace by Tolstoy. Just can't say enough about it. War and Peace is brilliant. It takes a bit to get into. You've got to be patient with it, but by the end you'll be so sorry it ended. And you'll actually be engaged in these characters and in this story. Anyhow, so suppose I'm making a new app. I don't know. Let's say it's a I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what kind of app might I make. Right? I want to make a new app. It should add any two numbers together. How do I do it? That's what I would do. Just go to ChatGPT. Movies. Lawrence of Arabia is brilliant. Probably the movie that had the most impact on me ever would be Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is a war story, of course, but it's a war story that is just so beautifully presented. The scene at the bridge with all the all the rockets and stuff, just incredible. All right, so here we go. Basic web app, HTML plus JavaScript. You can name it. Here's the HTML file. Right, how to run it, paste the code, open it in a web browser. So, all right, so, and there's, yeah. So basically, that's how you create an app. Okay, so I asked, that's how I would proceed, right? 7 beats. You want to create an app? I went to ChatGPT. Probably any of these other services would do just as well, because like I say, I think there's shells on top, and then they're using either Claude or ChatGPT or what's the third one? Anthropics. No, that is Claude. I always forget the name of them. I think it's the Google one. Anyhow, it's using an AI engine under the hood. The bridge scene gave me nightmares. I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. It's just incredible. When Star Trek game. I wish, I wish I had finished that Star Trek game. That would have been so cool. Using Grok. That's X's, isn't it? Yeah. I don't use X stuff, so I don't use Grok, but that's a personal decision. Okay. Where were we? Oops, that's not. Oh, that's where we started. Truthiness, narrowing. Oh, yeah, right. So, function get users online messages. If num users online, return error. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so num users online is going to be declared to be a number. So, okay, so what are we saying? In JavaScript, constructs like if first coerce their conditions to booleans to make sense of them. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically it'll take this, and doesn't matter what it is, it'll reduce this to either true or false. So a bunch of things all coerce to false. I don't like the word coerce, but I get why they're using it. ChatGPT is pretty good at solving some errors, searching on behalf of you, but yeah, it still can't write big things. You've hit on that exactly, Elias. I've got an application I've been working on, which is kind of what I should be doing right now instead of this, but so here's this application, and so it's got a whole pile of code to it. And what I found is everything is slow, and I can't even remember where I've put it. It's not in code projects. You'd think I'd put it in code projects, but no, I didn't put it in code projects. Where did I put it? I can't remember where I put my application. Might not even be here. Oh, man. Oh, it's here. C list. Right. So this is the code for this particular project. We'll wait while it comes up because we're running on a slow computer. And I've got all of these individual files. And the reason why I've got all of these individual files is I found that you can't get ChatGPT to write code that's much longer than this. And you see this is about, yeah, it's about 350, 400 lines, give or take. 450 lines? Yeah, 422, yeah. Yeah, it's not going to write anything longer than that. And what happens is, if you ask it, you can put in this code and ask it to add another function. It'll add another function, but because of this length thing, it'll drop some other code. So you got to be careful not to ask ChatGPT to write something that's too long. Same thing with writing, like writing an essay or something like that. I found the same problem. You ask ChatGPT to write an article for you, it'll write, like, I don't know, an article of a certain length. I think it's about 1,000 words, and it won't write longer than that. I don't know why. Yeah, I know it has a limit. I know it costs them money. I actually signed up for, like, they had it at $20 a month, and then they stopped charging $20 a month. I don't know if I'm still paying $20 a month or not, but it treats me as though I'm paying $20 a month. I sometimes paste the code at the prompt and ask it to do so. Well, yeah, I do that quite a bit too. And I found again, it forgets too, right? So the newer versions now, they have a canvas that they work on. So I could probably push it into the canvas mode here somehow. Well, I'm not going to bother trying, but it should just say. Now I'm trying to think if I can force it into that canvas. Use canvas mode, please. Okay, let's see if it remembers what canvas mode is. Answer chat instead. Here we go. Yeah, so this is the canvas mode, and so sometimes I'll just paste some code right in here, and then ask it to work on that. But that length limit is still going to apply. Yeah, they have a $200 plan. I'm not going to pay $200 a month to work with ChatGPT. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen, because I know how to break down my code into modules and things so that I don't have to have all of ChatGPT's power working on a single script. But yeah, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge to do that. Still can't believe I got a large audience here. This is incredible. Okay, where were we? Back to TypeScript. Okay. So it's fairly popular to leverage this behavior. Yes, I do it all the time. So yeah. But you'll notice we've gotten rid of the error by checking if strs is truthy. Why am I spelling that out? Just clarity. Now, do we see the string truthy in here anywhere? No. So I guess what they mean is, well, I don't know what they mean. Okay, this kind of expression is always truthy. I don't know what you're trying to say. fairly popular to leverage this behavior. Yeah, the Boolean, forcing it to true or false. If string, if stars, and type of star. Okay, I guess. Yeah, okay. I think this is what they mean. I could explain this a lot more clearly. If strs and type of equals object. So if strs is, as they say, coerced to true, which would mean it's not 0, nan, empty string, null, whatever, and the type of strs is object, then do the thing. So this is the truthiness that they're talking about, just testing for the existence, the truthiness, I guess, of strs. ChatGPT helped me understand some errors that I made without noticing them for hours. But yes, it really cannot write big stuff. Yeah, and that's the neat thing about ChatGPT. It's not simply that it helps me understand errors, although, yeah, it is a pretty good error checker. And it saved me a lot of time hunting down bugs. And there's nothing worse than hunting down bugs. It's also taught me a lot of new stuff that I didn't know about. Huh. Can't lie, still the same garbage. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. Don't do this. Keep reading. Right. If strs can. Oh, right. Truthiness checking on primitives can often be error prone. Has a subtle downside. We may no longer be handling the empty string case correctly. Yeah. But I mean, this is just common JavaScript stuff too. I mean, they're talking about it in Typescript, but this is JavaScript too. I mean, you put it in a conjunction, right? To make sure you have the thing that you want and do that. And then if it's not the thing that you want, you do something else. Equality narrowing. Okay. Oh, this is, yeah. Switch statements and equality checks. Okay. When we checked that x and y are both equal, Typescript knew their types also had to be equal. That makes sense. The number 6 is distinct from the string 6. They are two different things. All right, the in arrow. Okay. Okay. Again, just if swim in animal, return animal swim. So again, we're going to be checking the types for swim in animal. Again, this is, I know it's a handbook and not an instructional manual, but it'd be nice if there were more things to do. Instead of just reading this stuff. It's boring just reading this stuff. And you don't learn it, right? If I actually had something I'm trying to do, then I'd actually learn it. Nice beard. It's pretty cool. Not a beard. Mustache. Beard is down here. No beard. I call this super mustache. I've had a mustache all my life. I first grew it when I was 16, and I was a waiter in a bar. You could do that then, although you weren't really supposed to. But I had the mustache so that I looked a little older, and I never gave up the mustache. I've had it all my life. but it only ever went down to here. And when I was 60, I've had a beard off and on over the years, but when I was 60, I decided I want a big mustache. So I gave myself super mustache as my 60th birthday present. I thought, this didn't happen, but I thought when I turned 65, I would also grow, what do they call them? The big sideburns, mutton chops, right? But I didn't. Maybe when I retire. I'm not retired yet, so maybe one day. Okay, assignments, looks at the right side of the assignment and narrows the left side appropriately. Yeah, okay. Control flow analysis. I mean, I'm just moving through this a lot faster now because I mean, it's going into a lot of tiny detail on types and all the different ways Typescript will check types. Oh, I like this. When you reduce the options of a union to a point where you've removed all possibilities and have nothing left, in those cases, Typescript will use a never type to represent a state which shouldn't exist. Oh, yeah. This is fun. For those of you who, I guess, don't know me, which is probably all of you, my actual formal education is not in computer science, it's in philosophy. So when you're talking about unions and intersections and all of that, my brain doesn't go to computer code. My brain goes to logic and set theory and stuff like that. So I often look at this a bit differently than a programmer might look at it. So, yeah, okay, so here we have type literals shape equals circle or square, get area shape, where shape has to be one of these, shape kind, case circle, case square, default, oh yeah, okay, so, yeah, so get an area, get something that's a shape, circle or square. We will never hit we will never hit anything other than case circle or case square. So we don't even need this default. Yeah. Triangle is not assignable. Yeah. All right. So again, not totally useful. More on functions. I think that's what's next. Well, I think I'm going to call this, as much fun as this has been, I'm going to call it an episode sign off. I'll assign it to the Stephen Follows Instructions playlist, where you can watch me talk about more of this kind of stuff to an audience of 0 people, which is my average audience. You can, I don't know, what is it, subscribe, or hit the little bell thing to be notified if I'm online or something. I don't know how that works. Well, I do know how that works, I just don't care. But you can do that if you want. I do these every once in a while. I'm not on any schedule or anything. Again, this is the first one from my office, and if we're going to highlight stuff from my office, I might take note of that. I have no idea why they highlighted this one. Who knows? It's one of the mysteries of Google. Thanks a lot for joining me. You can watch a quick course about Typescript and have a general idea. Yeah, I know. I just wanted to follow the manual. Still haven't dealt with classes and modules, which is really why I was doing this whole TypeScript thing in the first place, was to deal with, especially with modules, not so much classes, but especially modules. But oh well, I'll do another, a part 2 of TypeScript, where I'll cover functions, classes, and modules. And yeah, also, again, I don't only do programming live, so be aware. Sometimes if you notice I'm live, you might turn me on. I'm playing No Man's Sky, which is a space exploration video game. So I sometimes do that live as well. Actually, I do that live more than these live. So just be warned, I don't always do this kind of stuff. Anyhow, that's it for today. Thanks everyone for joining me. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you sometime in the future on Stephen Follows Instructions. Bye for now.